at a President Pence versus President Trump from the liberal activist side is Trump is terrorism, Pence is conventional war. We know how to fight conventional war. Fighting terrorism, and that's what I'm saying in terms of
embellish
of
on that a little bit.
When I say Pence is a more manageable risk, it's because I think to use the analogy I just made, he's conventional war. We know how to fight a conventional war. Trump is all over the place. I mean, I heard someone on NPR yesterday when someone made the comparison of this whole Russia thing to Watergate. And God, it wasn't E.J. Dionne, but someone said, we used to have a much better class of criminal as president because at least, the president didn't come out and admit to wrongdoing.
Right.
They as Trump did, not only to Lester Holt, but also apparently to the Russians, who he told, oh, yeah, I fired Comey. He's a nut job. And it's funny, there was a story in USA Today this week where they talked to people from Comey's hometown, including his dad, and they said, no, he's like the most honest man we know of utmost integrity, which I immediately thought Trump responded to that saying, yeah, nutbag.
Well, but
but I think when it comes down to Trump versus Pence, from the liberal side, and I agree with everything you're saying, Ron, I think Pence would do horrible things. I think he would have a much better hold on Congress, but I think it would be a much easier fight.
How so?
For the left, because we are familiar with those tactics. We are familiar. It's easier to.
How did
fight.
The left do stopping Bush?
Well,
did they stop the Patriot Act?
No, and they didn't even stop Trump. Which you were saying that the next election should be a cakewalk for the Democrats. The last election should have been a cakewalk for the Democrats.
Oh, absolutely.
So yeah,
I think with this Comey thing coming out, they're saying how honest. Because they want that's the big thing. He's going to be questioned. And I think he's going to crack their face. I think he's going to crack the Republicans' face because really, now that you've come out and basically called this guy a dick, you say, oh, he's a nut bag or whatever. You're insulting this man. Mm-hmm. This man's going to make you pay. Oh, I'm insulting you? Oh, okay. Guess what? And they say he kept notes. Well, guess what kind of notes he's going to stick to your ass? If he does what he's supposed to do, they better be. All of them.
But there's so much. There's so much that stinks about the way they're doing this. Where first off, Trump.
Well, because you sold him out.
First off, like Trump, tweets that before Comey leaks to the press, he better hope I don't have tapes. Well, first of all, speaking to the press is not leaking. And a lot of this is going to sound like, oh, it's semantics. But like I say, semantics is the difference between I've stopped taking drugs and I'm off my meds. Same thing, but semantically, it's an important difference. And so when they start painting, whistleblowing and talking to the press, whistleblowing, okay, could be leaking. But now Trump is saying that Comey's a nut job. They're trying to remove his credibility when a guy who served as the FBI director, who was I believe he was the deputy attorney general before, and
ran down. Well, he talked about how he ran all the way down to
the hospital when
the
Bush administration was trying to get Ashcroft to sign off. Ashcroft was all loopy. He was the attorney general. They were trying to get him to sign off, and Mueller and Comey were the guys who were like, "This is really unconstitutional." Now, who are you going to believe? That guy or the guy who lies about the size of the crowds at his inauguration when there is clear photographic evidence proving him wrong? The guy who lies every time he opens his mouth and takes his foot out of it.
But don't they all lie, though? Don't they all lie?
But the thing about Trump...
No, hang on. No, they don't. And this is something... Hang on. No, the GOP, of course. But there's this, when you say they all lie, we have to stop saying, oh, well, everybody lies, so it's all right if we elect a liar.
That's the first thing I said, man.
But I think it's wrong that we say that. We need to, when you say they all lie.
I mean the GOP.
Right. Yeah. But, you need to clarify that because when we're talking about Comey, versus Trump, and who actually has, I'm not even going to say more integrity, who actually has integrity. It ain't Trump. And for people to be trying to paint Comey as equally as dishonest or as even partially dishonest is the same thing that brought Trump into the Oval Office when all the fucking Bernie bros and all the idiots who were anti-Hillary during the last election wanted, they're both the same. No, they're not. There are very, very crucial differences between the two of them. And we are seeing that now. We are seeing what having a loose cannon. I mean, fucking Iran just had their elections yesterday. Even Iran went with the centrist. And over there, a centrist is also a whack job, but not as wacky as the real whack job.
Right.
And we elected the whack job. America.
That's a result of a broken
the
system.
reason why Trump does what he does because he understands our society. We are consumers. They've turned. Give them a cell phone and a pair of Air Jordans, and they will vote. I mean, he did. This guy stated to you. That article I just showed you. He says, when I run, it was on Facebook.
Yeah, but go on.
He says when I run, I'll run as a Republican, and he said that I'll win. Because they're stupid. And he knows, he obviously knows the American fabric.
He understands the bigger disease. And that's why, I fall into this Bernie bro camp that you're talking about. Not in the sense that I would say, Hillary's going to be just as bad as Trump. I was never in that camp. However, I was in the camp of the DNC acted grossly unethically. That was uncovered.
Absolutely. Hang on. Wait, let me cut you off, though, real quick, because I voted for Bernie in the primaries. I was a Bernie supporter. But what I'm talking about specifically is that when it came down to the general election on November 9th, one of two people was going to be president. And if you think that what the DNC did to Bernie Sanders and really any other circumstance made Hillary Clinton someone who would be a worse president than Donald Trump, then I think you are sorely mistaken. So let me just get that out of the way because, I was a Bernie supporter. I still support him. But when it came down to the general election, facts are facts and feelings are feelings. And you can feel as bad as you want about what happened to Bernie Sanders and how he was treated by the Democrats. But when it comes down to deciding who is going to be a better president, when you step into that ballot box, I do not see anything that would make a rational person say, Trump. Trump will be a better president.
Right, but what I'm saying is that Trump winning the presidency is not anyone on the left's fault. Because here's what happened. All right, here's the purpose of a primary, unless I'm mistaken. I mean, maybe I was taught wrong. I don't know. But I was always taught the purpose of a primary was so that two candidates can talk about the issues, they can debate the issues, and then as a result of that, they see how the voters feel, and then they form the candidate that wins, whether they won fairly or not, in this case not, but the candidate that wins then forms a platform based on what they learned in the primary to make them the strongest candidate possible for the base. That being said, Bernie Sanders was the biggest present Hillary Clinton could have asked for. Bernie Sanders mobilized a movement. He mobilized a revolution. The last time that happened, it was Barack Obama in 2008.
He was just 2 years too short.
No, he wasn't.
He should have started 2 years ago. I would have voted for Bernie. Bernie, I agree what he did, but if he was going to do it, and I talked to my sister, who's a big Democrat, and I talked to her, she said, and we were talking, she said, loved his plan. 2 years too short. He should have been at least a year ahead, or at least a year ahead, before that. We didn't, because when he jumped on the bandwagon and he starts making this momentum, you're saying to yourself, "Damn!" Because if it was a year ahead, he'd have beat Hillary, and they would have won. I'm not saying that he wasn't a great candidate. I thought that his plan. I think he should have been ahead, at least 2 years ahead. I see
where you're getting at, but I disagree to a point because, and this is coming from someone who grew up watching Chicago politics. Right. So, I know how the machine works, and I see what you're saying, but I think the DNC, as we saw during the primaries, was totally in the tank for Hillary. And so there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But that's what I'm
But
saying.
what I'm saying is,
she was already there.
Even with a 2-year head start on campaigning,
yeah, it wouldn't have mattered.
I don't think the machine. I think the party still would have gone.
Because remember, they had no one. Remember, she had no one running against her. Remember, when she came out, all you saw was Hillary. There was nobody for her to really go. And then all of a sudden, here comes Bernie. And Bernie's making this momentum, It's just like a race. He's coming from the back, and he's just mowing. And people are like, yeah, Bernie. And I said,
it turns out voters like a platform.
But once again, I'm asking what time it is, and you're telling me how watches are made. First of all,
what's the question again?
We could relitigate the primaries and the last election until the cows come home, fix the place up, and decide it's time to move out because the pigs are gentrifying. But we could talk about that. But what I'm talking about again is just the general election. I'm not talking about the primaries and how we got there.
I'm talking about that too.
But when it came down to it, when we were in the general election, there were 2 candidates. Right. One of them was going to be president. This sounds like a bad setup for a prize fight. 2 men enter the ring. Mm-hmm. One is going to walk out the victor. But at that point, anyone who wasn't voting for Hillary was basically voting for Trump or, by abstaining, letting him win.
But
what? I do disagree, and I am not absolving Hillary. I'm not saying that no mistakes were made on her behalf. I'm not saying that she still hasn't done the analysis
down.
I'm not punching down. No, I'm not. I'm talking reality. And by saying that I'm punching down, you're doing the same thing. I had this argument with so many people on Facebook before the election when I tried to explain that this is the way the election system works. One of these 2 people is going to be president. And they would say, you just stop trying to scare me. Stop trying to scare us. Look, just because the facts are scary doesn't mean that the person who's telling you the facts is trying to scare you.
I said the same thing.
It's not punching down. It's addressing reality.
But
if you don't like the message, I'm sorry.
Let the lesbians speak too.
But facts are facts. And you cannot argue with.
Can I say why I think it's punching down?
Ron, say why you think it's punching down. Then we'll let the lesbian speak.
All right.
And then
white
guy, lesbian, black guy, just like America.
Let the lesbians
All right,
speak. Let
the point that I was getting to, why Bernie was Bernie gave Hillary the perfect platform to just go and run with. What did she do instead? She picked someone for her VP pick that was more conservative than her, which even in the Democratic Party is hard to fucking do. She managed to do it. She picked Tim Kaine, the most useless VP pick in the history of American politics. I cannot think of a more useless one. He had one job, win Virginia. He barely accomplished that job. The only reason he did was because of Gary Johnson. And he couldn't beat Mike Pence in a debate. That guy is pathetic. The fact that he can show his face in the light of day without shame is embarrassing for him. So, first of all, she did that. She did not come out against DAPL. She did not come out against fracking. She did not come out she couldn't even support a $15 an hour minimum wage. Bernie handed her an amazing platform. She couldn't even support single payer. If the Democrats supported single payer tomorrow, they would win for the next 40 years. She couldn't do it because of her donors. She even said that universal health care would never happen. She did everything she shouldn't have done. And then what happened? Look at the states that she lost. Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan, states impacted by minimum wage law, states that have been gutted by workers' rights being diminished, states that are impacted by fracking. Those are the states that she lost. And Wisconsin, which nobody in her campaign could find on a map. So you know whose fault it is we have Trump? It's 30 years of neoliberalism. It's the Clinton campaign, which was the worst campaign in my lifetime, maybe even further back than that. It is not the fault of anybody that couldn't bring themselves to vote for a corporatist warmonger because they felt like the thumb was on the scale. And the only way that third parties made a difference in that election mathematically is if you're assuming every third-party voter would have voted for Clinton, which is wrong. Pretty much every Gary Johnson voter would have been a vote for Trump otherwise. So mathematically, that is a farce, and you're punching down because you're blaming the people with no power that felt absolutely desperate and have been in poverty for 30 years and felt like nobody had their back. I'm not saying that was the case, But I'm saying a lot of people were justified in feeling that way. And you cannot not look at the failures of our system. Trump is a symptom of a much bigger disease, and we are in a point of crisis.
Well,
so I can't accept the
well, it didn't help. It didn't help
anymore.
that Comey came in and then also put his 2 cents in, because the so-called other emails that he had